to all. We extend a warm welcome to our guest, Major Omkar Mulye, our audience, and of course, the dignitaries who are watching this fourth episode of Alumni Champion Talks.
I, Miss Bhavinayak, and my friend Miss Kavya Mehta will take you through this inspirational journey.
If you have just tuned in today, you may be wondering what exactly is an alumni champion talks.
Yes, of course. How lovely hours I would taking them so that I could share my heartfelt feelings with the people protecting our country, the soldiers.
Well then, isn't it pretty that our guest today is Major Omkar Mulye? Let me introduce you to our all-inspiring guest today. Major Omkar completed his graduation in 2014 in Business Administration. He joined the NCC in college, which gave him exposure to the Indian Army. He was selected as a best cadet to represent the Mumbai group in 2012. Moreover, he joined the Officers Training Academy in October 2013 and was formally commissioned as a lieutenant in 2014 after a year of rigorous training.
In 2016, he was awarded the Army Commander's Commendation for successfully training the Ghatak Commandos Krav Maga and Unarmed Combat. In 2018, he qualified as a helicopter pilot after completing a basic flying course on the Chetak helicopter. What a staggering list of accomplishments! I'm sure our viewers are waiting with bated breath. So without further ado, let me present to you the very talented Major Omkar Mulye, who is currently stationed at Jammu and has joined us from there.
It's nice being part of this prestigious event, and I'm really able to help any of you however I can.
We are delighted to have you on the show, sir. I'm sure. And who did you idolize as a child?
My childhood was fairly simple and fairly interesting. It was no different, not very great as far as anyone else is concerned. It's more or less the same. But some of the things that I would say were different in my case was that I was always an outdoorsman, despite growing up in the city and being in a tech-savvy, city slicker sort of environment. I try to stay away from technology and social media for as long as I can, for as long as I could rather. And I spent a lot of time outdoors, just exploring. Luckily, National Park, Sanjay Gandhi National Park was very close to my home, so I used to just go out there, just to be in nature. And as far as my idol is concerned, I would say that my grandfather is my idol. Uh, at least during my childhood years, for his his vision and his very simplistic wisdom, which I try to follow even in present times.
Sorry to chip in. Could you be closer to the mic? You are not audible clearly. You'll need to be a little louder also. Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Am I audible now? Hello?
Yes. No, no. You need to be a little more louder.
Hello? Am I audible now, ma'am?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
The free outdoor lifestyle is what every student misses at this moment. I totally agree with you. Staying outside is very important.
In these past months, I have been cooped up inside my house, missing all the things I did in school. Chatting with friends, our canteen vada pav, the morning prayers, and standing up to wish, or rather saying good morning to the teachers. Leaving the school building brings back a wave of memories. The photos of my friends make me feel nostalgic. Going back to your school days, what comes to your mind when you hear the word Children's Academy?
When I hear the name Children's Academy, I am a lot of good memories come back. You get a lot of nostalgia, although it was not a long time ago, but still, after the journey that I've been through, it even 8-10 years seems like a long time. But the name Children's Academy, or the idea of school, to me brings in mind the concept of inquisitiveness and curiosity, which my school really tried to foster in me, and as well as the rest of my batchmates. And for that, I mean, I'll be eternally grateful to the school.
What was your big takeaway from the years you spent at Children's Academy?
My big takeaway from my years in the school would be just to keep pursuing this the thirst for knowledge, and really substantial knowledge, not just information, not just data. Nowadays, a person's intelligence, it's very easy to confuse a person's intelligence with just the amount of data, or the amount of facts and figures and information how much that person may have. But the big takeaway for me would be not to focus on just information, but actually to dive deep into the subject and get a substantial knowledge about the aspect that you're trying to learn. Then of course facts and information is also important as far as studies and giving examinations is concerned. But that is all secondary to actually understanding the fundamentals of what you're trying to learn, and what is actually happening beneath the surface of whatever field that you're trying to study.
It is true. We should also focus on intelligence, not only regarding books and the things we learn at school through our textbooks, but also through the outside world.
Yes, completely. I mean, if you ask me, true knowledge, it's a very interesting anecdote, or rather, it's a very interesting idea. The word scholar, everyone tries to be a scholar, but none of us actually try to understand where this word, or where this idea or concept comes from. I mean, the word scholar originates from a very old Greek word, and counterintuitively it doesn't actually mean studies or schools or knowledge, getting knowledge from books. The word scholar actually is to mean leader, and that is a very interesting idea of gathering intelligence, or getting knowledge or wisdom. The Greeks or many of the philosophers still believe that true knowledge about any subject is actually gained when you are not trying to study it, but actually you are just being a part of it. Like if you're walking out in nature, just observe grass, the way it grows, just look at the sky, and if you question it, like why is the sky different from the way it was yesterday, or why the trees here slightly different from somewhere else, and if you just ask these simple questions, and if you just get into it, as in why is it the way it is, then I think you get a real understanding of the concept, much more than you can get from books, or just getting data off the internet.
That's actually true. Asking questions is surely a sign of intelligence. Asking questions, it also allows people to articulate their own current understandings.
Being in the 10th grade, I'm at a crossroads where I have to choose a career. Deciding what I want to do is not easy. Not too long ago, choosing a traditional career was the only option for a safe and promising future. Now, many offbeat options provide benefits of a road less traveled. Major Omkar, you chose to enter the army after a degree in business administration. Could you take us through that decision?
So my path into the army, or my journey of joining the army, was actually has very little to do with the formal education that I've received till graduation. That is, and to be very honest, one of the main reasons why I got into business administration was simply that I completed my 12th standard till junior college studies in science, but somehow I was not, I was not as much enchanted as the, scientific subjects of chemistry and physics. Although, in retrospect, I am now a big fan of physics. I spend a lot of time, just reading about physics concepts and, quantum mechanics and astronomy. But back in college, the scope of studies is very limited to, the subjects that are taught in the classroom and the syllabus that is covered in the textbooks. So somehow I was, disenchanted with science as a stream, and I ended up joining business administration for my graduation. But luckily, I got the opportunity to join the National Cadet Corps while I was, undergoing business administration, and I got a, fairly good exposure as far as the armed forces is concerned. Otherwise, being from the city, there is very limited exposure as far as the armed forces are concerned. मुंबई में वैसी फौज तो है नहीं कि like as opposed to Punjab or Jammu and Kashmir, where watching the army or watching soldiers is, not a very big deal. They are posted everywhere around there. But in Mumbai, there is no fauj as such. So, after the National Cadet Corps, I got a limited scope of exposure in the armed forces. And the things that I saw on TV, in movies like fighting and, soldiers running on obstacle fields and doing their, part of their usual trainings. And I was actually fascinated by all this, and I realized that this is actually a very interesting field to be. And if I could do it as a profession, then there was nothing like it. So as I was finishing my graduation years, I gave the Combined Defense Services examination in my last year. I was fortunate enough to get selected in my first attempt after clearing the exam, as well as the SSB, which is a Staff Selection Board, which is most critical steps in the process of joining the armed forces. I was lucky enough to clear it in the first attempt, and that's what brought me to where I am now. So.
Thank you, sir, for sharing that with us. And so, a mentor such as yourself, your accumulated wisdom and expertise will be invaluable to the wide-eyed youngsters who are, I'm sure, hanging on to every word of yours. There are many students who are interested in joining the army but are not aware of the process involved. Could you tell us the requirements to join the Indian Army after grade 12?
So the requirements as such, or the QR for joining the armed forces after 12th, is different if you want to go to a different training academy, and largely it is divided into whether you want to get a permanent commission or a short service commission, which again is a career decision. I mean, if you choose that you want to join the armed forces as a career for for 50 years, or for till the age of 50, then then you have to get into through the permanent commission. So after completing the 12th standard, like if you want to join the NDA, which is after 12th standard, you have to complete a basic education of 12th in science. They usually check your scores for physics and chemistry and maths. And the benefit of trying to get into NDA is that you are also the opportunity for joining Navy and Air Force also gets opened up, especially in the combat arms of the Air Force as opposed to the logistics arms. So the first step, the first juncture where a person can join the armed forces is after 12th. He can give the examination for National Defense Academy, which is usually released. The applications and the notifications are released online twice a year, and subsequently the student can fill the application online and give the examination, and of course, if selected, go for the SSB, which is a compulsory step in regardless of whether you join after 12th or after graduation. Subsequently, if some people at the age of at the level of 12th standard have not decided that what actually do they want to do as a career, like what was in my case. So that student can just complete graduation in whichever stream. It doesn't matter whether you finish it through science or commerce or arts or whatever else there is out there. But in the final year, again, the student must try to appear for the Combined Defense Services examination. Again, the applications are released twice a year, and one of the benefits of this entire process nowadays is that everything is very streamlined. It's very efficient. All the forms and all the applications are released online, and the submission for the same is also online. So, as opposed to my case, which we were one of the last batches, we were to do the kagzi karwai wala purane zamane wala things like fill out your application, then send it by post to some address. But now it's none of that. You can just fill it fill it the forms online, submit your photos and everything online, and you get the call up. So the Combined Defense Services examination, ideally the student should opt, should try to appear for that exam in the final year, and after you graduate, you can just give out your graduation certificate at a later date. If you go through the Combined Defense Services examination, which is at graduation level, 15 standard, again you get an option of joining two academies. Either you can go for the Indian Military Academy, which is in Dehradun, or the Officers Training Academy, which is in Chennai. Now that decision depends upon whether you want a permanent commission in the army or you want to go for a short service commission. So short service commission is 10 years of, minimum 10 years of service, after which you can extend it to get a permanent commission. So those are the options. Those are the easiest, options to get into the army.
So every career requires a specific personality. What personality traits, in your opinion, are necessary for a successful career in the army?
That is a very interesting question, and well, the most important personality trait that is required in the case of officers, I would say, let's focus you are as most of you are quite educated and perhaps far more intelligent than I am. So we will discuss about personality traits of officers as opposed to soldiers. So one of the most important personality trait, in my opinion, is that the individual has to be first and foremost fearless. And fearlessness is not fearlessness is not कि कहीं धमाका हो गया तो you will not get scared for a second, you will not be jolted or something. But fearlessness means that you should just be not afraid of taking risks, and having a certain sense of self confidence and self assurance कि जो भी होता है end में सब सही हो जाएगा. So this trait is highly required because as an officer you are directly responsible for the lives and deaths of the men that are following you, and your orders, your decisions are directly related on the type of life they live, or should your decision decision not go the right way, then it might lead to their deaths as well. So a certain sense of confidence, and there of course you need not be said, but of course you have to have that clarity of thought. These are some of the aspects that are checked during the SSB as well. It doesn't matter whether you are the most intelligent person around. If you cannot tell your orders to your men, if you cannot relate to them in their language, if you cannot, as a person, I was first posted in a Sikh unit, a pure Sardar unit. So to explain to them the orders, not just in Hindi but also in Punjabi, and then giving them that confidence कि मैं जो decision दे रहा हूँ, it is not only going to save your lives but it is going to win the war, and to allow them to get that confidence in you, that really is dependent on how confident and how fearless you are and how much clarity you have in your thoughts. So these are the main traits, I would say, as an officer.
I hope our viewers are noting down the points and getting a full view of what life in the army entails.
An officer in the Indian Army inherits a glorious heritage and lasting traditions, blended perfectly with the latest advances in technology in the fields of armament, management, engineering, and medical sciences. It offers a golden opportunity to be a part of the world's finest army and get trained not only to be an officer, but also a gentleman for life. Could you tell us more about what life in the army entails?
Life in the army is in a way it has its ups and downs, of course, like everything else. But some of the best parts, the best aspects of life in the armed forces is the exposure you get to different regions, different cultures. As a guy from Mumbai, I would have never expected, or I would have never thought of myself sitting in the mountains of Siachen or Ladakh, or just spending weeks or months on end at some remote forest in Arunachal Pradesh, just mingling with the local populace. And the beauty of this organization, or the beauty of a profession in the armed forces, is just this, that you get a vast exposure that really transcends beyond the just regular mundane monotonous life. You get to interact with people, the cultures. I just came back from northeast. I was in Arunachal Pradesh for a long time, and I still am. The culture that you can experience in northeast is like nothing else, and I would have never come across these things, these cultures, these people, these regions. The beauty of just sitting in a mountain and not doing anything, not even thinking to some extent. The beauty of such things is, you cannot find it in any other profession, and that is what sets this profession apart from others.
Surely traveling has its own beauty of it, and you get to travel so much, you can see all that vast aspects of our whole country. So, when you were in the initial years of the army, are there any experiences which stand up to you the most?
Like I said, one of the most memorable experiences throughout my armed forces journey, right from training till where I am right here, right now. Some of the most memorable aspects, memorable events would be, first of all, the Josh Run. Like in our training years, one of the main events that you need to go through before completion of your training is an event called Josh Run, which is really an endurance and navigation run. Like I said, like I incorrectly said last time, which was 50 kilometers. It's not actually 50; it's 40 kilometers. So the Josh Run is that you are given few coordinates. You don't have a clear-cut path कि इस रास्ते पे जाना है 40 किलोमीटर सीधे और वापस आना है. You are just given a map and a compass, and you are given grid references, which is like latitudes and longitudes, and you are just told कि ये तुम्हारे 5 coordinates है. You have to hit one after the other, and you have to finish this race. Now the ironic thing, or the funny thing about this thing, is that the 40 kilometers which is given to you is just a on map straight line. So when you are running on ground, it is never actually straight line. You cannot run in a straight line like a map. So you might come across hills or nalas or rivers or small villages. So you have to bypass these features. So these 40 kilometers, which is supposed to be ideally 40, it always exceeds to 46, 48. Sometimes it even crosses 50 kilometers. So now why this event stands out as opposed to so many other events and so many other activities is that this event actually gives all of us, the cadets that are going through this event, it gives us a very different sense of realization. Now, what I learned and what I realized from this event is that now like I should tell you some details about this event. When you are running the Josh Run, first of all, you are not running in the day, you are running at night. You cannot see anything, you are usually left alone in a forest. So there are no landmarks, you cannot ask anyone कि भाई कहाँ जाना है यार बता दो कुछ. There is no such thing, you're just out there helpless. Well, not helpless, but you're out there alone. And you are carrying a weight of 30 kilograms, and apart from that you have your personal weapon, which might range from 4 kgs to 8 kgs depending on which weapon you get. And I remember as we left our as it's called last light, as the sun is setting, as the darkness just starts, you are told to depart from your campsite. So it was just getting dark. We were carrying our weights and we were just started running. And we were struck by a moment of misfortune. It started raining quite heavily. Now the weight that you are carrying, it usually has a lot of blankets and rajai. We call it rajai. So which is just cloth and wood. So because of the rain, it started soaking down, and our weights, which were supposed to be 30, went easily upwards of 35, 36 kilograms. And now with that additional weight, you are running. Now the thing that I realized is that the body is not actually designed to do all this. It's not designed to carry weight like 40 kilograms and run for 40. So the thing is that in my case at least, and I can also vouch for all of my postmates who undergo the same thing. After 5-6 kilometers, your body is exhausted. Your body is completely drained, and it's after that it is just a mind game. It is just a game of whether your mind breaks or not. And the idea, this you come across this saying, mind over matter. Mental strength is more than physical strength or whatever. But what does actually mind over matter mean? And that is what we learn in this Josh run. Like physically, the body is exhausted after 5, maybe 10 kilometers at max. But it is the mind that keeps telling, "नहीं नहीं बस करते रहना है, करते रहना है." You keep pushing yourself. And I remember after 10 kilometers or so, 10-15 kilometers, the legs start to develop blisters, which is like boils. But you can't stop. You have to keep running. So after a while, those boils and blisters just burst, and you are in severe pain. Your feet get swollen, and you are already wet because of the rain and sweat. But you keep pushing. You keep pushing. And I remember after almost 30 kilometers, one of my postmates and good friends who was injured in some sports competition, he was like, कि बस मेरा हो गया, अभी मैं नहीं कर सकता इसके आगे. I am going to give up. So the thing about this is that if you give up, you are not actually कि बस चलो 80 के टेक अगले बार कर देना या फिर देख लेंगे पास कर देंगे. You have to do it. So, but unfortunately for those who drop out, they will have to they will have to do this 40 kilometers on their own, which is next to impossible, because if you are doing it in a crowd, it is like we can pull each other and just keep नहीं कर ले करके एक दूसरे को खींच सकते हैं. But as doing it as just alone in the middle of a forest is just part of nightmares. So me and another of my friend Utsav, we decided, we were individually exhausted, but we were like नहीं नहीं यार तेरे को तो करना ही पड़ेगा. So now we take his load, which is another 30-35 kilograms. Another of my friends takes the injured guy on his shoulder and then runs for maybe 1 kilometer too. Then someone else takes him and takes his load. And this, over this journey of just 40 kilometers, you learn things that you can never learn in theory. You learn things that why mind matters over the body, or how this bond of camaraderie, how these are the people that you are going to be fighting in battles with. So to carry each other through thick and thin is some of these things that are that will stay with me for life. So that is my most memorable event till now, at least.
In these type of events, surely being with the team helps us a lot. They have each other's back. Initially, it might be tough with all the rigorous training, like you said about the Josh run and everything. You may also have some other trainings in the army. So sometimes we all get overwhelmed in life, whether it is from work stress or studies for us. It is a normal thing right now. So, was there ever a time you felt overwhelmed or you felt like that? And if you did, then how did you cope up with that? How did you bounce back?
So there were times when I was very overwhelmed after joining the army, and as you may have realized, this job is very demanding as far as the physically as well as mentally demanding, because you have to stay sharp physically as well as mentally. So I remember, I think it was 2015 or 16, and I was, not to be, boastful, but I was a good fighter. So I was selected in various fighting-based competitions. Having, learned and being trained in martial arts, I was also given the duty of training Ghatak Commandos, which you said in the introduction. So the training year for that, 2015 or 16, whatever it was packed in such a way that every month or every few months there would be some competition or some training event. And I remember it was almost a period of 10, 11 months where I hadn't been home. Whenever I used to, like, one of the most painful things in the army or in government services is just applying for leave. It's just not like not in, like, as opposed to some corporate thing where you can just send an email saying कि यार अगले हफ्ते से मैं छुट्टी जा रहा हूँ, and then you are sent. Here you have to give an application through a certain chain of command, and it takes days to get you just sanctioned. So whenever I would take my leave application saying कि सर मेरे को अभी छुट्टी जाने दो, I would be told कि नहीं नहीं यार अभी तो ये competition है, अभी तो तुम्हें उनको train करना है, फिर कैसे जाओगे छुट्टी? And this kept on going for 10, 11 months. Then at the 11th month I was in a place called Babina, which is again a very out in the middle of nowhere sort of place. And I remember it was my sister's birthday. So back then I didn't even used to have a phone, so I borrowed a phone from one of my seniors and gave my sister a call, and we spoke for a long time, around 30, 35, 40 minutes, whatever. And as I was returning back to my tent, out in training exercises, you don't stay in shelters or in proper pakka rooms. You just stay out in tents. So I went back to my tent, and a thought hit me, and not a thought but a feeling. I was like overwhelmed with this feeling. After 11 months of being around this same environment of the army, and just training, firing, training, firing, I had completely forgotten that there was a certain completely different aspect to my life. Ki I was like, अरे भाई मेरी घर पे एक बहन है, मेरी मम्मी पापा है, मेरा वो भी एक दुनिया है. And I was like so in a state of shock कि यार मैं तो भूल ही गया था कि ये सब भी है. I was like कि बस I was just so focused on all these things I had forgotten it completely. So finally again after that camp was over, I just decided कि नहीं नहीं अभी मेरे को जाना ही है छुट्टी. But as far as bouncing back is concerned, I would say it is just a matter of of mental framework. How it's just a frame of mind. You can bounce back the minute you decide कि नहीं ठीक है ये भी हो जाएगा. And like I said, after I was overcome with this feeling कि अरे यार बहुत दिनों में घर नहीं गया, I was severely homesick, you can say. But after 5 maybe 10 minutes of reflection, I was like कि ठीक है यार ये भी हो जाएगा, 10-15 दिन की बात है, 20 दिन at max, एक महीना ये भी कर लेंगे. So that is just that कि bouncing back is we make a big deal about bouncing back कि यार we make motivational films about how people have come back, but it is just a state of mind. You can bounce back the minute you decide कि नहीं नहीं बस ये भी हो जाएगा, कर लेंगे ये भी. Luckily for me, I bounced back. I went up to my senior, said कि नहीं नहीं सर अभी मेरे को जाना ही है छुट्टी है. So he was like कि नहीं नहीं जा बेटा तू भी जा, अभी मजे करके आ. Yeah.
It must be difficult to not even be able to take a leave to go to your family and all that stuff. Decision and strong willpower will surely help us bounce back right on the track. In recent times, there also has been a lot of debate concerning the entry of women officers into India's armed forces. Defense experts have come up with varied opinions, and some people have even gone to the extent of labeling this important issue as the phenomenon of conquering the last male bastion. The Supreme Court ruled last month that female students will now be allowed to train at one of the country's elite military training institutions, the National Defense Academy. In another move aimed towards creating gender balance in the armed forces, the Sainik schools will now be open to the female students. Sir, how do you view these developments?
I personally think this is a great development. Like not just as far as the equality and all that gender debate is concerned, but being a pass out of officers training academy, I had the opportunity of training alongside lady cadets, the lady officers that are in the army. For lady cadets till now, the only academy was the officers training academy Chennai. So I had the opportunity firsthand of training alongside women or girls or ladies, whatever word you want to use. But my opinion is very clear. The things that I've seen are speak for themselves, and I have absolutely no doubts about the physical or mental capabilities, their acumen as far as women are concerned. Like I have being trained having trained alongside women, I remember we have a test called BPT, which is a 5 kilometer run where you run with a small bag and which is like 5-6 kgs and your own weapon, which is again 4-5 kgs. You run for 5 kilometers in I think 28 minutes of time. So I back then I had a stress fracture in my left shin, which is it's like a hairline fracture. So I was having a lot of difficulty completing that last stretch of 1.5 2 kilometers, which is again a mental stretch. It's like because you're physically you are already exhausted. So I was running very slowly. I would have failed if I had kept running at that pace. So one of my course mates was a lady cadet, Shreya. She's now an officer also in Jammu Kashmir. She was the one who said ki nahi nahi yaar kar le, and she pushed me mentally as well as physically to some extent, and I was able to pass that test. So I have absolutely no doubts about the capabilities of women, and training alongside women and girls is we realized, like, we gentlemen cadets, there we call it gentlemen cadets and lady cadets. So as gentlemen cadets, we by the end of 1 year of the having undergone the same training as the lady cadets, we come to see these our lady counterparts not as anything different. We just think of them कि यार ये भी अपना bro ही है यार, भाई है अपना, इसके साथ ही जाना है लड़ाई में. So we don't see we don't really do all that discrimination stuff. And as far as this last male bastion is concerned, these are all more these are media driven things. Like, not many people within the army are so have a specific mindset ki nahi, male bastion or whatever. And but again, the counter side is that a lot of studies have also gone into the battlefield effectiveness of women vis-a-vis men. And a long study which was conducted by the United States Marine Corps eventually ruled that while lady officers or lady soldiers, they also have lady soldiers, we only have lady officers. The decision or the observation was that women were finding it difficult to keep pace with their male counterparts. And by pace, I mean if they have to run a distance of A to B, if the men can complete it in 10 minutes, maybe the women take 11, 12, 13 minutes, which is not a big difference, but we cannot compromise the overall, operational situation, because finally it all comes down to timelines. Operations are all based on timelines कि तुम इतने बजे वहां पे पहुंचोगे, इतने बजे firing start होगा, इतने बजे firing समाप्त करके pack up and go back home. So I can speak for myself as well as anyone else in the army when I say that there is no issue with having fighting alongside women, as long as the overall operational effectiveness is not compromised. Just taking a decision based on politically, being political correctness is one thing, and just examining the overall aspects and then taking a decision is what is required. Otherwise, like I said, I have no doubt, and I have personally witnessed the physical skills and their combat skills and the mental acumen of lady officers. So I think it's a great step that women are being given the same opportunity as guys.
You are absolutely right, sir. It is not just enough to merely politically correct statement. We should not just make them. Certainly, a lot of planning has to be undertaken before these changes are made and to be ruled out by the government and to make them into action.
So, sir, we have a time-honored tradition of asking some quirky questions that will set you thinking. So, the first question is, if you were to write an autobiography, what would the title be?
Well, that is actually a very quirky question, isn't it? Now, I would give a very quirky answer to that also. My answer would be that I don't know. And not because I don't know the name of the autobiography, I would just call it I don't know. Because, not because for anything else, but I think when you realize that you don't know completely anything, when you don't know anything, if you really think about it, you don't know anything that is happening. Why are things happening the way they are? And you ask that question enough times, and you will come to the realization that I don't know. You go back all the way back to the Big Bang, and then you ask, nahi, nahi, but uske pehle kya hua tha? And then you realize, nahi, I don't know. Then if you think about it, this is just astronomical example. But if you go into anything and keep asking why, you will reach a point where you just कि नहीं यार बस ऐसे ही होता है. So to have that, why the reason why I say I don't know is just ki it allows you to have an open mind. So if you reach a conclusion ki nahi nahi aisa hi hai, then you are actually limiting yourself from gaining further knowledge, because then you develop this whole idea ki nahi nahi yahi sahi hai, and anything other than that is maybe not true. So I don't know is a very good philosophy as far as titles and autobiographies are concerned, because it keeps you open to new ideas and new thoughts and new experiences.
I don't know. That will surely attract the readers to know what is in that. So, while
Yeah.
learning more about you, we found that you have included music among your hobbies. So, do you play any instrument? And if not, which instrument would you like to personally learn?
I I am passionate about very different instruments. There was a time for almost a period of 2 or 3 years where I had started playing the guitar, but I broke my finger in a hockey tournament, and I don't know if you know this, but you need the left hand fingers to just play around with the fretboard of the guitar. So I stopped playing the guitar after my injury. But if there is any instrument that I would really like to learn, is probably would be the saxophone, or among the wind instruments, or I would just continue learning guitar, because I already have some background in it, and more or less all string instruments are more or less the same. They work on the same musical language. And when you say passionate about music, I should clarify that my definition of music is perhaps different from normal definition of music. I just listen to music which has no words, as in no lyrics, or no singing. So you can't really call them songs. It is just music, shastriya sangeet, or classical, or just instrumentals. And that is how I like to see music.
Music without no words can definitely be calming. Also, astronomy is one of your favorite pastimes. Could you tell us more about what got you interested in this field?
I got into this field, after reading the works of the various astronomers, and Neil deGrasse Tyson was a big one, Stephen Hawking, and astronomy always fascinated me even as a child. What is actually happening out there? कि ठीक है, मतलब stars दिख रहे हैं, planets दिख रहे हैं, but why? मतलब how? And what is beyond all this? And after, one of my first posting was after getting commissioned was in Ladakh, and the beauty of Ladakh is that there is no pollution of any sorts. There is no smoke, there is no fog. Of course, there is fog during the winters, but there is no smoke. There is no light pollution, which is a big thing in cities. There are thousands of lights through buildings and street lights. In Ladakh, in Chumadang, there was no lights. So, once the last light would occur after the sun would set, the sky would just get lit up with just stars and moonlight. So I would start using mobile apps for sky viewer and sky maps, and then I would start reading up on, because I don't know if you've seen this, but a lot of galaxies, even the Andromeda galaxy, which is very close to the solar system, is the Milky Way galaxy, is actually visible by naked eye on a very clear night. So I got to see a lot of astronomical bodies, heavenly bodies, and I started reading up on them. I was almost on the verge of buying a small little telescope, but because of the army moves, I had to drop that plan. And I think astronomy is a very fascinating subject to just study for the sake of it. Maybe not professionally, or maybe not as a career, but just as a hobby. I think one should definitely get into it, because the idea that there are things outside just our everyday life, and that the universe is vaster than than our wildest imaginations, and the laws that are found in the universe are so counterintuitive, and we have to read through about it, just for the sake of expanding our own knowledge and our curiosity.
Well, I also know some star names, but not that much in depth as you. Also, if you see superheroes, that word superhero, we all have seen the Avengers mostly, we all have. So if we say which superhero do you resonate with the most and why? It doesn't have to be only from a movie or anything, but also from your personal life or any cartoons or anything which you have seen.
Okay. So, like you mentioned, Avengers. I'm not personally a big fan of Marvel or generally superhero books or movies. I find them very predictable, to be very honest. But my favorite superhero or the superhero, as far as uh, fan fiction or fantasy is concerned, is would be from a cartoon back in my childhood called Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if it's still running or if you even heard of it, but the this show had a lot of different characters, and my favorite superheroes were actually both of the leading superheroes, which was they're called Goku and Vegeta. Of course, these words mean nothing to you, but the reason why I was so fond of these two characters is because one was a pure, both are, they were both warriors, hardened warriors, but one of them was a very peaceful warrior who was like a philosopher, a monk sort of warrior कि नहीं नहीं ठीक है लड़ाई करनी पड़ी तो करेंगे नहीं तो कुछ नहीं करना, as opposed to his counterpart Vegeta, who was like in a certain sense his alter ego, you can say, who was like कि नहीं नहीं बस मार पीट करना है, destruction, everything has to end now. And these two characters viewed in conjunction are like the perfect combination of a superhero, I would say. So these pair, I would say, are my favorite.
Major Omkar, you have been very candid. I have liked your anecdotes, and I'm sure all our youngsters who've been watching, they'll really be inspired by it. But I've been reading some troubling accounts. There have been there's a dearth of officers in the army, and a lot of these youngsters today are drawn or enamored of a lot of glitz and glamour and all that, and they are not into the services, as it were. So, what would you say to them? I mean, from your own experience, you are very young yourself and you've achieved so much. So, what would you say to these youngsters, about a career in the army? Because you're the best person to do so. What would you say to that?
Like I said, the reason why you should try to, why youngsters should try to opt for a career in the armed forces is, first of all, the exposure. The exposure that you will get in the armed forces, regardless of whether you go into the army or navy or air force, you will get an exposure that is vast beyond average comprehension. Like I said, in Mumbai, I would have never imagined myself sitting on top of a mountain in Siachen or the forests of Arunachal, and just the sense of adventure ki you don't know where the army will take you, and regardless of where the army takes you, that place will have its own beauty, in terms of the people or the landscape or the culture. So as far as I would say, why the students, why the youngsters should try to opt for the armed forces is, first of all, a sense of adventure, trying to do something different that is different apart from the regular monotonous city lifestyle, where people are just rushing from point A to point B, finishing their 8 or 10 years 10 hours of whatever job that they're doing, then rushing back home, which gives off a very monotonous life. And if you ask me, that is no way to live life, because you have to have something else. And I mean, what is the point of having all this and doing everything if you're not having fun? So the army will give you a certain sense of fun as well as adventure. Other than that, the armed forces are very good in terms of their pay packages, and I mean, as far as perks and privileges are concerned, which is fairly good. As may perhaps not as much as the multinational corporations, but it's definitely not bad. And other than that, I mean, the armed forces will give you an opportunity for everything. If you want to ride horses, if you want to be a horse rider, sure, the army will accommodate you. If you want to get into martial arts, boxing, just training of people into about the martial arts and combat in general, sure, the army will do that. If you say ki nahi, nahi, I just want to ride my car, I want to go on rallies, I'm a good driver, I just want to drive my car, the army will set you up with a Himalayan rally. It will give you a car. It will say ki chalo jao Himalaya mein rally race karke aa jao. Represent the army, represent the armed forces. if you're a good athlete, you will army will, like you may have seen, most of the athletes that are winning are armed forces serving personnel. So the army beyond should you should see the army just beyond its limited scope ki the log baithe border pe bas hatiyar leke. It is not like that. The army, the armed forces is much more than that. You want to do anything as a hobby, as a passion within the army, the armed forces will definitely try to accommodate it, and it will give you a push, as far as you are giving off that certain dedication towards whatever it is that you're following. So it is a good thing. I mean, beyond, you are just not only serving for the nation, you are not only experiencing different cultures and places, but also you're able to, follow and build up your own minute passions. Like, I mean, I have seen one of my dear friends, Suraj God. He was a very avid, horse rider. He was very good at it. And now he's, representing the army at national, international levels. I have friends who have, athletes and marksmen who have represented India and the Indian Armed Forces in Switzerland. So it's like whatever you want to follow, the armed forces will give you a scope. कि नहीं नहीं कर लो, ये भी कर लो. Like, and I mean, it's a very short span of time, so I cannot actually give out the vastness of this, but trust me when I say कि like I have also met officers who were like कि नहीं नहीं, we just want to ride our motorcycles. They were naval officers, and the navy was like कि नहीं यार तुम्हें करना है तो करो. So they set up they got into an understanding with Java motorcycles, and they were like कि these people will represent the Indian Navy, and they will be sent all over India. So these guys, they just spend like years of their time just riding their motorcycles all the way across India, north, south, and all the way from northeast to Rajasthan, just representing the Navy. And they are doing this as a job. So I'm like, what more can a person want? So that's why
Absolutely,
you should
yeah.
really.
Absolutely, Omkar. I think the exposure that the army gives is unparalleled. And children, I hope you are listening very, keenly, because it's not just that typical, fuzzy kind of image that you have. You can do more in every field, and of course, defend your country, which is the ultimate patriotic duty. Yes, Bhavi and Kavya, please carry on. Thank you, Omkar, for answering my question.
Thank you,
Thank you, ma'am.
Miss. So, wrapping up this insightful session, I would like to ask you one last question. If you could travel back in time and give your younger self some advice, what would you say? Perhaps the youngsters could avoid those pitfalls.
Yeah. So if I am to, somehow go back in time and see my old self, I would, try to give him a lot of lessons. But the thing about lessons is that, or the thing about life lessons especially, is that they have to be learnt experientially. And I could give him the ultimate truth through anecdotes and through, just words, and it will just be sermons for him. But if the younger Omkar would have just experienced the same thing and then reach the same conclusion, then he will actually learn it. But regardless, I will, as far as giving life advice to my younger self, I would definitely tell my younger self to just be relaxed. When I say relaxed, I don't mean physically, but I also in terms of a certain anxiety that comes up just by doing the everyday duties in a society, just by attending school, just by attending college. This chase for jobs and careers, it all builds up in the form of anxiety and stress and tension and whatever. So like, I mean, I'm sure most of you have also been through the same. Like I would get overwhelmed if I score, like if I'm capable of scoring 60 and I score 55, then I'm like, yo shit, kya ho gaya. But that is what I tell my younger self ki relax, sab ho jata hai. Just have a certain focus, just have a certain goal in your mind and keep working towards it, and eventually things will fall into place. I don't know if we have the time, but I would like to tell you a short story. It's about a Chinese farmer. It's of course a fictional story, perhaps. So once upon a time, there's a Chinese farmer, and he doesn't have a, it's an old story, so they don't have tractors or anything. He has one horse which he uses to plow his fields, and one day the horse runs away, the barn door is not closed and the horse runs away. And all the neighbors, the farmer's wife, everyone come to the farmer and say कि यार बहुत बुरा हुआ, अब क्या कैसे होगा? And the farmer says कि ठीक है, let's see, maybe it's bad, yes. But everyone is like नहीं नहीं है तो बहुत ही बुरा हुआ, and they go their own way. A few days go by, and the horse comes back with a herd of wild horses, and now everyone is all happy and excited, and they are like, "Wow, बहुत बढ़िया हुआ! It's great luck. You're a very lucky man. This is very good fortune." And the farmer again says, "Yeah, maybe." Then again, a few days go by. His son is trying to train one of these wild horses, and the horse being wild, he's trying to resist the training and kicks the boy, and the boy ends up fracturing his arm and one leg. Again, all the neighbors, all the family members gather and say कि नहीं बहुत बुरा हुआ, it's very bad luck, misfortune and all that. Again, the farmer sits back and says, yes, maybe. A few days go by again, and now the Chinese are engaged in a big bloody war, and they come recruiting all the youngsters, and then they see this one boy who's has his one arm broken, one leg broken, and they are like, नहीं इसको नहीं लेके सकते. And they take away all the other young men, and being a bloody war, most of them don't come back. So again, everyone comes back, वाह बहुत बढ़िया हुआ, it's you're very lucky. And again, farmer says, yeah, ठीक है, maybe. So the point of this story is that the permutations and combinations that are happening all around you, you can never really determine whether one thing that is happening is great or one thing that is happening is bad. There is no great fortune, just like there is no great misfortune. So the moral is just, be relaxed, be happy, have fun, have a certain sense of curiosity and inquisitiveness, and just have fun, be happy, and you'll have a good life, regardless of which career you get or which college you get into. All those things come second.
It's true that one has to experience all the things to learn life lessons. Goals have to be worked towards instead of just sitting and dreaming that I would achieve this, I would achieve that. We have to put some effort in it so that we could achieve that particular goal. And what you said is true. There is no great fortune, nor is there any great misfortune. Sir, this session has been so knowledgeable. You have been so candid and have shared so many life lessons and anecdotes. Many thanks, sir, for your time, your insights, and for taking us through this wonderful journey from your childhood to an impressive career in the army. We'd also like to thank the dignitaries and, of course, our viewers. I hope you enjoyed this session as much as we enjoyed presenting it.
We will be back with yet another episode of Alumni Champion Talks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Goodbye.